Well, good evening, everyone. This is Carolina Weather Authority meteorologist Joshua Nagelberg out of Raleigh, North Carolina, and I'm here to bring you the latest update on Isaias, which is now nearing the South Carolina coastline. And before we go any further, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, as we want to continue to provide to you frequent YouTube video updates. And as we reach 1,000 subscribers, we can do that through YouTube and not through third-party software, which of course makes things a lot smoother for us in answering any of your pertinent questions. So first of all, we have a new article out that Mike put out this afternoon about our major impacts expected from Isaias. We're not calling it a tropical storm or a hurricane because it's basically right on the border. We'll wait for another plane to get into this system this evening and determine if we do in fact have a hurricane or not. Right now it's very close, but we're expecting a large portion of the Carolinas and Mid-Atlantic region near the coastline to have major impacts from Isaias over the next 24 to 36 hours. Winds likely to 60 miles per hour or greater near the path of the storm, with power outages likely. This could impact millions of you guys during the night tonight while you're sleeping. Trees will likely come down with all the rain that we've had, and there's definitely a threat for some flooding, especially on area rivers, as we get a lot of rain in just a short amount of time on top of what's already been a very wet summer pattern for many of us. Not everyone, but many of us. So the latest on Isaias, as of 5 o'clock, still a tropical storm with 70 mile per hour wind. There's not been a plane flying through there to determine if in fact we have a hurricane yet, but that could still happen this evening. We believe here it actually will in the 8 p.m. to about 1 a.m. time frame. We could have a very low end Category 1 hurricane. And again, I don't want you to get stuck on 70 versus 80 miles per hour because we don't think there's much of a difference between the two. The storm is still growing in size, and what we've seen this afternoon is more tropical storm force wind on the western side of the storm than ever so far with this system, and I'll get to why that is. But a good chunk of the eastern seaboard is under a tropical storm warning, with the exception of the middle and upper South Carolina coastline and the lower North Carolina coastline, which are under hurricane warning, as hurricane-like wind is expected to overspread the region here later this evening and continue into the early part of the overnight hours. And this storm is likely to accelerate, so it's not going to be weakening a whole lot. In fact, could cause widespread damage all the way up the eastern seaboard. So definitely a storm we need to take seriously, despite the fact that the label still shows a tropical storm. Visible satellite imagery does show our storm system, which is southeast of Charleston, South Carolina, moving north-northeast in this general direction. Still dealing with a lot of dry air on the southern part of the storm, but we're also having wind shear out of the southwest, which is keeping much of the weather off to the north and east of the center. But what we have seen on radar, and I'm going to pull that up for you here on radar scope, is somewhat of an eye feature. Of course, it's filled with clouds at this point and some light precipitation. But the difference between this time yesterday and the time today is that a lot of the heavy rain and wind is actually now to the north and west of the center, whereas yesterday, with this system fighting westerly shear, a lot of the weather was well offshore to the north and east. That can be attributed to two things. Number one, it spent a little more time away from land today than it did yesterday. It was very close to Florida yesterday, and today it's been distanced enough from South Carolina to allow this to occur. Second, we've got a trough which is digging into the eastern U.S., and that's actually producing some enhanced low-level jet stream winds, which may not mean a lot to you, but we're going to see that in action here over the next day, and a lot of the reason why we don't think this system is going to weaken very quickly as it moves inland. In fact, it could strengthen at some point. So right now we are seeing what's probably going to be causing some tidal flooding across Charleston Harbor, and certainly some elevated storm surge up the coast from Charleston right on through Cape Fear this evening, and we could see storm surges of 3 to 5 feet later this evening and overnight in this area along the Grand Strand. So some dangerous surf that could cause damage to your property if you're right on the ocean front. You definitely need to keep that in mind. The storm center is moving north-northeast at 16 miles per hour. I'm actually going to draw it on the map for you guys here. X marks the center of the storm. This is Charleston right here. Myrtle Beach is right here, Wilmington right here, and we're expecting the storm to track in this general direction, making landfall right near Calabash, North Carolina. It's going to be very close to the state line between North Carolina and South Carolina. And for those of you who might know your hurricane history, this was also the spot that Hurricane Hazel hit back in 1954. That was from this angle, though. So kind of a rare event for us here, but one that we definitely need to take seriously at this point. We're going to take a look real quick as well at the infrared loop to show you that We still have some cold cloud tops in here. They're kind of warming a little bit, but should cool off as the nighttime wears on once again. But the area of colder cloud tops is expanding northward, so we're seeing our storm growing on the northern side. We don't have a plane in the storm right now, but I will tell you right now, a very good agreement in storm tracks. Actually, let me reload this with the latest for you guys. And yes, we're seeing very tightly clustered storm tracks right up until we get to about Philadelphia late in the afternoon tomorrow, and up into western New England tomorrow evening. Intensity forecast, still a chance for some strengthening on some of our models here over the next 12 hours before we have weakening after landfall, but not very quick weakening. GFS model does take our, tropical model does take our storm inland here. This is 8 o'clock in the evening, very close to McClellanville, just offshore, and then 2 in the morning we're inland. So landfall is probably going to occur right around midnight or so, right here at the state border. But pressures do deepen a little bit, and you'll notice that a lot of the heavy rain starts to shift to the western and southwestern part of the system. And that's going to be pretty critical in what we look to see with flooding rain. It's going to be shifting from the heaviest rain to the east of the center now to the west of the center, and that puts places like Fayetteville, Raleigh, Richmond, Baltimore, even the western suburbs of Philly at risk for flash flooding over the next 24 to 48 hours. I am going to try and get a little bit technical with you guys here and show you some of our hourly models. What this indicates is the threat for significant tornado potential. And when we start seeing yellows and reds, and this right now is the current time at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, we start to see across southern North Carolina some enhanced tornado potential later this evening and then into the overnight hours. This is 2 in the morning. I do think we will see some tornado warnings and maybe some quick evolving tornadoes across this portion of North Carolina. And as we get into the overnight hours, approaching the Pamlico Sound, New Bern, certainly inland areas, all the way up to maybe Greenville, North Carolina. And then Elizabeth City could have tornadoes by 5 or 6 in the morning, up to Norfolk and Virginia Beach, 6 or 7 a.m. And then across the Delmarva Peninsula in the morning tomorrow, South Jersey by midday, and New York City could have some tornadoes in the area by early tomorrow afternoon. So this system is going to produce the threat for tornadoes as well as strong winds. I will show you wind gusts as well. This is kind of interesting. Let me zoom out. And again, this might be a little bit technical. It's showing the threat for the eye wall to produce wind gusts over 90 to maybe 100 miles per hour offshore. That will not be a problem onshore that we think. But as landfall is made around, this is 12:30, 1 in the morning, the strongest wind gusts are expected around Cape Fear, and then starting to move up the coast and inland in places like Wilmington at 2 a.m., maybe getting to Jacksonville, Camp Lejeune. At 3 a.m., these wind gusts start to spread farther northward, and then what happens is as we get into the overnight hours, we're going to watch the backside of the center of the storm for the strongest winds to form. Check this out here, Virginia Beach area by 8 in the morning, and then what we see is a secondary area of stronger winds on the southern side of the storm developing later in the morning and around midday, and some powerful winds could hit Delaware, New Jersey. Look at this, a gust to maybe 68 knots, which is close to 80 miles per hour, is possible across South Jersey, New York City. So we're going to see lots of people without power tomorrow afternoon, evening as this rolls on through. The other thing I do want to show you guys, I had it up a second ago, the rainfall amounts here. Looks like near the track we could have 3 to 6 inches of rain widespread, and maybe some areas that could pick up 7 or 8 inches as this moves straight up to the north-northeast. So just east of Raleigh over to maybe Wilson and Rocky Mount, right on up to Richmond, Baltimore, Philadelphia, western suburbs, upstate New York, and western New England, a widespread flash flooding threat as well. So that's all I have to share with you guys for now. Oh, I did want to let you know we do now have, let me find it for you, a tornado watch until 2 a.m. for northeastern South Carolina and southern North Carolina, including Wilmington and Myrtle Beach. Do be prepared tonight. Have your NOAA weather radio handy in the event that we do have tornado warnings and you lose power. You'll definitely want to know about those. I expect to see more of these watches overnight tonight, spreading northward across eastern North Carolina and then getting up into southeast Virginia by morning tomorrow. All right, be safe, everyone. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Visit us at CarolinaWXAuthority.com, and our Facebook page will have frequent updates as well. Be safe, everyone.